morning. Welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Lorene Tanaka. We are here this morning with State Chairman Garrett Hashimoto, and he's with the Hawaii Christian Coalition. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Lorene. Thank you for having me.
Now, last year, we had a special session called SB1. How did that session come about?
Well, SB1 became a special session because of the governor, our governor, Governor Abercrombie. Back in August, I think, Speaker Suki, the House Speaker, Senate President Don Mercado Kim, and the governor spoke about having a special section regarding SB1.
Okay.
And I think that conclusion at that time was there would be no special session. But unbeknownst to the community, there was a representative or two going around and trying to get votes to convince the governor to have a special session. Although the House and the Senate people, the legislators did not want this special session. You know, that's the time they all go on vacations or whatever they have planned, yeah? So then I think someone told the governor that they have the votes in the House of Representatives, so call a special session. And that is why the governor called a special session. And speaking to the Speaker and Senate President, they were both shocked.
Because it was done at a very last minute and just thrown out there.
That's right. So I believe what happened was a lot of arm twisting going around behind the scenes, you know, trying to get this special session going and this SB1 bill passed. So that's why the Hawaii Christian Coalition and representatives like Bob McDermott and the people, legislators who voted against the special session were very vocal and upset because they had a right to be upset. They felt that it was done.
Well, you're blindsided.
That's correct, secretly, yeah.
Wow.
And this has never happened before.
So what was the outcome of that?
Well, the outcome was close to 90% of the people of Hawaii came down to testify when they had a chance. During the Senate testimonies or hearing, Senate President cut the hearing short, saying that there would be no public hearings. And the people were very upset, you can imagine. And so the House committee said that they would hear all the testimonies.
And they did.
And they did.
Every last one.
That's correct. And so the testimonies were about close to 90% in opposition, or for, 10% or less for SB1. And what people don't know, a lot of the testimonies for SB1 came from people that are not even local.
They're not residents.
They're not residents. You know, they came from all over the United States, the gay community. They have a lot of money behind them, and I personally saw a gay couple.
So the masses that we saw as we were looking at the news reports and everything else were not residents. Majority of them were not residents.
As far as the people who support them.
Yes, for the supporters.
Yeah, but if you looked at the people in opposition, you had families with their children sleeping on concrete now, on newspapers. You know, that's how passionate they were against this. And all they said was, let the people decide. Let us decide on the future of this. Because back in 1998, we had a vote for or against same-sex marriage. But if you look at the language that time, the language was put to the people that do you give the legislators the right to deny same-sex marriage here in Hawaii. And it was crafted by a couple of legislators who were for same-sex marriage. But the people overwhelmingly voted, told the legislators to vote against same-sex marriage.
And they wanted it on the ballots, right? They wanted an amendment on the ballot.
That's correct. They said, since we the people denied same-sex marriage back in '98 through a constitutional amendment, we should also have another constitutional amendment because this is a very contentious issue.
That sounds so logical.
It is, yeah. And I guess the legislators forgot that the Hawaii Constitution says the people are the power of the state. Yeah, the powers of the state belongs to the people. Yeah. So sad. Yeah.
It is. So with that now, I guess, behind us, right? What is the Hawaii Christian Coalition working on now?
Okay, what we're working on now is to gather those people opposed to this same-sex marriage to stop this same-sex education now, which we'll talk about later.
We'll go into this right in the second half.
But to stop same-sex education, to stop attacks on the Christian churches, which is very important because during that special session, they put in language, they said, to protect the churches. Okay.
Right.
And some of the opposition coming from Christians like myself, pastors, etc., said language was not strong enough.
Exactly.
Yeah. For example, if a church is a school, could that church be sued for not allowing gays or anybody else to go into that church and dictate what that church has to do?
There was so much gray area that was not addressed.
That is
right?
correct. So, and we gave examples of photographers being sued, wedding cake makers being sued, and they said
they're being sued for discrimination for not working at the. Okay.
That's correct. But again, those people, I believe, were targeted because if you go, there's how many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of photographers or
vendors
businesses,
out there, right?
but they chose to sue and not to find another one. So it shows that although they call Christians or people like myself bigots, homophobes, things like that, I haven't spit against people, taunt them, or which the other side has done to me or other people that I know of. Yeah.
Okay. Now, are there, at the Capitol, there are all kinds of meetings happening out there. There are pastors' meetings at the Capitol.
Right.
Tell us more about that.
Okay, the Hawaii Christian Coalition, we started this in 1998, 1999. And because I believe that it is a public building and everyone has a right to that building, including pastors. So we gather to fellowship there and to have a pastor's luncheon, to not only fellowship but to pray, and to pray over legislative issues that invited legislators come and give us updates on. If there's going to be a finance bill that they felt that the churches should know about or community should know about, then they would tell us about it during that time. So we have, the Hawaii Christian Coalition has those luncheons once a month and to provide that information to the pastors. And because we tell them that, like I said in the last pastors meeting, that the old-time pastors, if there was a comet that fell from the skies, they would be preaching on that the next Sunday. Current events, yeah? If there was a fire down the street, they would be preaching on that and fire prevention, because the pastors are basically the teachers or the leaders of the communities, of their congregation. So pastors in the old days used to preach on current events.
Okay.
Yeah. And not on,
Now, are these meetings open to the public? This sounds very interesting.
Yeah, it's open to the invited guests, actually, to pastors or church leaders and to certain legislators that are invited.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the past two sessions or pastors' luncheons, we had people coming in from reporters that do not support our values come in, and they
weren't invited.
They weren't invited, but I let them stay because I felt we weren't doing anything wrong. Yeah, and they did file complaints against us for things that we were supposedly not supposed to say and do, and those complaints were not upheld.
So is it kind of the general understanding that people think you're having meetings at the Capitol, it's a public building, taxpayers support that it should be open to the public?
Good question. A lot of people think that, but although the building is public, those meetings are private.
And it can be.
It can be. For example, I was invited to a meeting by a party, and then I was told by one of the party members that it was a private meeting.
A closed meeting.
A closed meeting. And so I checked up on that, and they said it was a closed meeting. So I did not try to force my way in or say.
Sure,
So
you respected that.
I respected that. Yeah. So I do hope people would respect,
course.
other people's privacy also.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. Now, is there something else going on as far as with the Hawaii Christian Coalition rallying candidates?
Yes, we
Tell us more about that.
We because of this special session and the passing of SB1, a lot of people were upset. A lot. They feel very passionately. There's no middle on this, and a lot of candidates have sprouted from the special session. So we're looking for candidates, but we're also looking for right candidates.
Okay.
Candidates, we are supporting certain candidates, but candidates have to know that if they become a candidate, they should have a team behind them of supporters. Anybody can be a candidate
Right.
if you have the money to file, etc. But we want a candidate who is very serious about this and who would run to win. To win is to share the values that they want to share to the community, which we felt were denied.
So, okay, so SB1 has passed, but there are still things that can be done?
There's still things that can be done.
So it's not just dead and it's
No.
forever written in stone?
Getting back to the special session, there were things that I believe that the health department did that were not ethical, such as I've heard from a very reliable source, and it happened to me. My granddaughter's birth certificate came late, and a person came from the mainland wanting to settle his dad's estate since his father passed away. His death certificate was delayed. And
Why was it delayed?
From sources inside or close to the Department of Health, they said that the Department of Health was too busy gearing up for same-sex marriage licenses.
So they put everything else on the back burner,
That's correct.
which is their public service to the public was just put on the back burner.
That's right. To focus on the passing of SB1. So it pretty much hurt me to think that our government, to think that the passion those people who testified in opposition had, staying there for hours on end, their children sleeping on a cold concrete floor with newspapers, nothing else but newspapers. And the decision was already made, basically, behind the scenes.
That is alarming.
That is alarming.